Thank you, but not necessary. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to the showcase for Halcyon's first ever EquityTech Fellowship. Today marks the culmination of months of hard work and what we hope will be a pivotal period in the transformative journeys for the entrepreneurs you'll hear from today. Their stories and their ventures represent the kind of bold ideas that Halcyon was founded to support. But this day is not just about hearing pitches. It's about starting conversations, building connections, and exploring how we can all play a role in advancing equity in our society. We're honored to have a remarkable group of partners who have supported our founders with funding, mentorship, advocacy, and so much more throughout the program. I specifically want to thank Capital One, Deloitte, Amazon Web Services, and Arnold & Porter for their financial, technical, and other contributions to the program. I also want to thank all of the advisors and presenters who share their knowledge, expertise, and networks with our fellows to help make them stronger leaders and entrepreneurs. As we move through the day, I encourage you all to think about the ways in which you too can help move these ventures forward. Whether through strategic partnerships, key introductions, or simply offering words of encouragement, we all have a role to play in ensuring that these ideas not only survive to the next level, but thrive into the future. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage Tom Berry, Senior Manager for Education Equity at AWS, or Amazon Web Services, to share some of the values behind AWS's mission in supporting impact-driven entrepreneurs by democratizing access to powerful technologies and the support they need to scale those. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you most of all to all the founders who brought your powerful ideas into the world before this program, but also to this stage. I'm so excited. I've already started learning from you all during this presentation. I'm not going to take long, but I do want to talk about AWS's belief in education and that it leads to opportunity, and that opportunity should be available to everyone. If there's many things that unite everyone in this room, but likely your interaction with an education experience, what you had or what you didn't have, led you to kind of the path you're on. And for these founders, in many cases, that education, you just received another 2 months of that in the past 2 months to learn how to communicate your story and deliver impact. AWS believes that we have a responsibility, because we're one of the world's largest cloud provider, I'm pretty sure we're the largest cloud provider, to help those young people, perhaps frontline workers at any stage of life, gain the skills they need to thrive and succeed in an increasingly digital world. And we think about this in a lot of ways. AWS has a long-standing commitment. We have the Amazon Future Engineer program, which is committed to computer science equity. It's delivered $46 million in scholarships to 1,100 youth. These are young women from a residential school in Hyderabad who never had an opportunity to go to one of the elite Indian universities, who then get to intern as an engineer at Amazon. This is also someone like Stephanie Rios, who I had the privilege to mentor across the river at our offices, who is working in the AWS team. If any of you founders have used the AWS console, the reason that you can sign in and assign an IAM role is she wrote a snippet of code that actually shipped to production this summer, and she never thought she would go to college. So we make these deep personal investments, and there's many other programs, but when we really think about how we can change the world and offer, it's actually through the builders who are from these communities, who have the ideas and the insight and can do far more than we can do from our kind of corporate ivory data-centered towers. And that's really what we think about when we think about education equity, is how do we enable those amazing founders with ideas to do more, and how do we measure that impact collectively, tell the story, and help the broader movement go forward. So starting kind of on the left side of this story, and then below, as a really personal aspect, a founder that I've known and worked with for several years, his name's Schwab Dar. He was fortunate to go to an elite Indian technical university where some of the best engineers of the world go to, but he came from Jammu Kashmir. Has anyone been to Jammu Kashmir? Then you probably know better than me that it's a place of amazing beauty, the crossroads of civilization. Some of the best fabrics, cashmere in the world, are from there. But also, only 37% of the public schools, the government schools, have computers. Only 10% of those actually work. Many students receive education in the open, nomads. And Schwab Dar, he decided when he grew up in that, was amazingly lucky to go to an elite university, to join the Teach for India program, where he became a classroom teacher in a government school. And he realized, We have this amazing tech ecosystem. One of the most vibrant tech ecosystems in the world is happening in India, but these children can't participate in it. So he works back from their needs. They had low-cost Android phones, low bandwidth. They needed mobile-first instruction. They actually needed their teachers to be brought on board. And he created the PyJam Foundation to build digital literacy and skills amongst this operation. And as he realized to create the impact he needed, he actually needed access to the cloud to host government-approved trainings that are available through WhatsApp on some phones to teachers who could sit in a field and instruct their students. He also needed really good technology that's beloved the world over, that actually every second I'm speaking right now, 5.6 students across the globe are creating a Scratch computer science project, a global open source learning solution that was created out of MIT. And all of what he was building, what Scratch provides, it comes down to being powered by AWS. So really it's the interaction of three models. We happen to have a resource, free technology and technical expertise. There happen to be global players who can really create something at scale, perhaps Scratch, but the actual impact happens locally with founders like Schwab Dar, and really founders like the 10 founders who are here on their own mission that I'm super excited. So we'll be launching this initiative publicly next month, but really regardless if you're in the education space, we also work in health and climate. I just want to say, come chat with us or my colleague Caroline who brought us here. We're not the end-all be-all solution, but we believe in the missions that you're embarked upon, and we want to be part of the solution. So, thank you all.
Thanks very much, Tom. The Halcyon AWS relationship has evolved in so many ways beyond the cloud computing credits that were the beginning of this relationship, and we are incredibly grateful and humbled by the support from AWS. Before I welcome the fellows to the stage, I want to welcome Halcyon's Executive Vice President, Kim Johnson-Roberts, Awa Tay from Capital One, whose title I'm going to read, but it's going to be a mouthful, Chief Data Architect and Head of Data Products and Privacy Engineering at Capital One, which is a supporter of this program, and founder and CEO of Wealthy Technologies and a Halcyon alum, Fanta Gilliam.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you here. We are not the big show. We are the small show before the big show for the fellows. So we will keep it to about 20 minutes. I would love to introduce our panelists here today, and I'm going to read your bios. So please let me know if I've got anything wrong. And I also just kind of want to add here that we had a prep call last week, and I said, how do you like to be prepared for conversations like this? And Awa said he likes to do Awa GPT, which means anything can come out in the moment, anything unexpected, and there's no way to prepare for the conversation at hand. So I challenge you to bring those surprises to the dialogue. So Awa, as you've just heard, is the Chief Data Architect and Head of Products and Privacy Engineering at Capital One, who is a long-term and critical partner for Halcyon's mission. He's had a career in data governance, privacy engineering, and fintech innovation. He's pushing the boundaries of private technology and cloud infrastructure with a track record that includes leadership roles at Verizon, Media, and Yahoo. And he is also a serial entrepreneur. So I'd love to touch on that a little bit today. Fanta Gilliam is, as you've heard, a Halcyon alum, the founder and let's not give a co-founder any credit, the founder and CEO of Wealthy, a company that's reshaping the landscape of financial inclusion. Before founding Wealthy, Fanta was a diplomat for over a decade, leading groundbreaking financial initiatives across East Asia and Africa. I have promised not to be political, but we may need those services again. And managed multi-million-dollar foreign assistance programs with recognition from President Obama. So I'm very excited to chat with both of you about your experience here today. And I know our audience and in particular our founders could learn quite a bit.
Glad to be here.
Let's launch into the GPT mode. Would love to dive into your experiences as people who wear many hats, visionaries, leaders, and entrepreneurs. And Fanta, I'll start with you. You've really built this from the ground up. As we prepare our fellows for the journey ahead, what do you think are some of the lessons you've learned about scaling an impact venture while balancing the demands of wearing all of these different hats?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's funny. I was telling them upstairs, I was literally here a few years ago. I was a fellow in the Opportunity Zone fellowship, right as COVID was hitting. I remember coming in every day into Halcyon, grinding it out with my business model canvas and sitting in the sessions, really when we were kind of at an idea stage. And when I think back then and where we are today here at Wealthy, it really it just means a lot to be here again. So thank you for having me. And fellows, excited to hear all of you pitch later on today. I have a lot of love for you. And so when I think about, how you juggled this kind of crazy landscape, Wealthy, again, went from an idea funded with probably about $7,000 and a loan from my mother
Thanks, Mom.
Yes, seriously. To raising over, $4.8 million in venture capital to date. Thank you. No easy feat, as you will see as you get there. One of the few black women-owned businesses to do that. We partner with folks like MasterCard, Discover, and Visa. And, as I think about how we got here and how you juggle all the things, I would say tenacity. You're going to be hit in so many different ways when you're raising money, when you're trying to get your first couple of clients, when you're trying to show product market fit, when you're trying to show, hey, I'm ready for that next milestone, and you just kind of have to keep at it, You listen to the criticisms, you listen to the praise, you keep a level head, and you just keep knocking it down. One challenge after the next, until you hit that milestone. So that's something I say, I try to tell everyone, tenacity, stick to it. You'll be on top, you'll be on the bottom, and eventually it kind of levels out.
How do you handle those days when you're on the bottom? And how do you stay committed to the mission with a positive perspective on those hard days? I'm sure the good days are easy, but
right.
How do you stay positive on the hard days?
Yeah, I think it's community, You got to find your people that know what you're going through, that get it, no judgments, but also won't hold back, when you're wrong or when you really need to think through something. It can be fellow founders, it can be advisors, it can be mentors. And I had to really be smart around filtering those. You can't listen to all the voices, honestly, and got to learn how to kind of find those 2 or 3 people that will really have your back when it's low and will let you cry or curse.
Or both.
And be cool about it. So.
Well, you just teed Awa up for my question, which is, we were messaging this morning and you were saying, even the greatest athletes have coaches. This is something that we all need. And coaching is, without a doubt, one of the most integral components of the work that we do here at Halcyon. I see some beloved Halcyon coaches in the crowd and mentors.
Yeah.
I would love to know how important you think it is for entrepreneurs to have that kind of guidance. And one step further, I would love to hear about someone who played that role in your career.
First and foremost, thank you very much for having me. Really looking forward to the conversation. In terms of coaches, just really thinking more broadly, to the point that you called out, just top world athletes, even senior executives, all have coach. I have a coach, right? And the thing about it is that it took me, 28, 29 years to figure out that having a coach is just like this supercharger, it's like a step ladder that allows me to reach a higher shelf. And you don't always think about that as an entrepreneur. You're thinking about product market fit. You're thinking about, oh my gosh, did I say the right thing at that last pitch session? Is that customer going to sign up for the service that you're in the product, you're in the services, you Actually, I'm going to do a little bit of audience engagement here. How many of you that are founders, I expect probably, a good chunk of you, how many of you have more than 2 people on your team? Show of hands. All right. Now, for those of you, let's keep your hands up. I'm going to make an exercise out of this too. How many of you have never had an issue with your team? Keep your hand up.
Really?
Wow. Okay. All right.
And what's that secret? But we'll get to that.
We need to tap into a secret, right? But the point here is that as an entrepreneur, particularly dealing in a high innovation space as impact, and EquityTech, and I'm going to talk about what I mean by high innovation here in a second. I think that it is really important to pay attention to what it is that you're delivering, product or service, but also to the people that you work with. And this is the place, this is the spot, this is the space where a coach can actually help you thrive. Being an entrepreneur myself, I've had the opportunity to fail a lot. No one knows about actually a good chunk of people do, but the reality is that everyone watches for the successes. They forget the failure, right? And a good part of improving your chances of or reducing your chances of failing is ensuring that you have a high-performing team around you. And the best way to tune your team, make sure that you have the highest-performing team, is to ensure that you have the right kind of coaching, the right kind of mentorship, the right kind of sponsorship, and you just have the best leadership team you can put together for your mission.
So you actually just led me to 2 kind of follow-up questions.
That was all GPT, by the way.
Well, no, but it's important because I actually agree. I have learned more in this life from the times I have failed than the times I have succeeded.
Yeah.
And I think culturally we have this reluctance or resistance to sharing those moments because it calls for great vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And I would love to know, putting you really on the spot, what's a time you failed, and what's a lesson that you learned from that you took to the next experience that made you a better entrepreneur or a better colleague?
This week, or how do you want?
I mean, it could be today, it could be a year ago. That life is long.
So I think maybe a good one could be going all the way back to my startup days. Just by reference, 12 startups, right?
Wow.
Only 2 of them succeeded.
Oh, wow.
But the 2 that succeeded just blew away the 10 that didn't, right? So now going back to what moment in time did I go, oh man, that was a learning lesson. Back during, I want to say the 2007, 2008 timeframe, I think that point in time is colloquially referenced by me and my therapist as the global financial meltdown. During that period, I was in fact running a fintech startup that was focused on driving the financing for the Affordable Care Act was not a thing yet, right? So this was for financing health, medical procedures that were not covered by insurance. So made it easy for you to pay for those expensive procedures over a period of time. And company was, in the 2004, 2005, when the company was founded, growing, like doubling in business quarter over quarter. It was just growing really, really aggressively. And the global financial pandemic, I guess is probably a good way to think about it, happened, and everything just kind of like fell apart. And at the time, one of the decisions that I made as one of the founders of the company, along with my partners, was let's stay the course, right? Let's see what we can do to continue to operate and see if we can make it to the other side. And so we did. So we stayed the course. We reduced our operating footprint, reduced our burn rate, and got all the way through to 2011, when that recession was dying down, and unfortunately had to shut down the company. And I'll get to the part where that's the point of failure, but I'll get to the part that I learned from that and how we got there. The most painful part of that is during that time frame, because we were the leader in our class, we were the best in class, we had the best technology, we had all the customers coming to us, there was perhaps a certain amount of hubris that went along with them, that basically, not necessarily too big to fail, but definitely cannot fail. And I think that is something, I've learned, and you got to flush that out of your mind. And what was super painful about that experience was that in 2012, a company that started after we did had worse technology, was growing at a far slower state, sold for about $350 million. It like I said, I have sessions with my therapist about it still. But the lesson, I guess, the takeaway, like each one of these failures, I think are tragedies only if we don't learn something from it. And the lesson that I took away and still carry with me to this day is do not let your past performance be an indication of future results. Right? Balance the destination of where you want to go to based on how far you have to go, not whether or not you are driving in a vehicle that is perhaps comfortable and luxurious at the time, right? Because those are the type of vehicles that burn through fuel faster, right? So glad to talk a little bit more detail after. I'm sure there's so many things we could talk about.
I'm just going to give Fanta an easy question after asking about your deepest, darkest failures. I know we talked a lot about cracking into these sort of large organizations. And I think our fellows in the audience are probably most curious to hear about the secret sauce of what works and what doesn't. And one of the things we talked about in our preparation for this was thinking too small, walking into the room and perhaps short selling yourself and what might be possible. So Fanta, I would love to hear about a time when you didn't do that. I'd love to hear about your experience in working with these huge organizations, how you kick those doors down, and what advice you may have for our fellows.
Yeah, totally. Both be scrappy, right? And we didn't have a lot of funding at the time to have a huge sales team and to go after a lot of these big banks, right, and credit unions. And so I remember, after talking to a lot of mentors and advisors, said, look, I could try and figure out how to sell bank to bank to bank. We build software for banks. Or I could go after channel partners who already have those banks as clients and get them to upsell me, right? And a lot of people thought that was crazy. Like, how are you going to get into the door with a MasterCard or a Visa, right? That sounds crazy. Nobody does that. Who are you to think you can do that? And we went for that because we knew what we had in terms of our tech. We knew we had a strong value prop. Spent a lot of time, and this is one, I guess the first tidbit is, studying those partners, right? What are their mandates right now? What are they putting their funding behind? What is their CEO talking about in terms of their key milestones for next year? Who is your target person that you want to sell into? What accelerators do they sponsor? That's the second point. A lot of these large corporations have accelerators, supplier diversity programs. They're looking for, honestly, Black and brown women founders to work with, or they're looking for companies that can help them, small businesses. And so we actively search for those initiatives because that's the best way to get into the door. Cold calling does not work, and it can be really hard to get a warm introduction to someone at a senior level unless, honestly, you're lucky and you know someone or you're part of Halcyon.
We appreciate that plug. Thank you.
No, they have. I'm serious. But seriously, so if you don't have all those things, you can get into their programs. And so we started to just apply to a slew of them. MasterCard had Start Path, for example. Visa has, I think it's the Visa Everywhere Challenge. We just started to apply to those accelerator incubator programs. We went through the process, which can be long, 3-6 months of programming where you feel like, man, I should be selling instead of sitting here. But at the end, you meet the people and they see your tech. And if your tech is just as good as your business and service is competitive, they'll pick you. And that's how we got a lot of our early sales and partners. My first 3 clients came through MasterCard introductions coming out of that program. And so that's how we get in. I highly encourage going at it that way. And then once you get into those programming, speak their language, right? Look at how they talk online, how their leadership talks, and make sure your product can align to it. And that's the best way to kind of slide through a door you might never get into. That has been my bread and butter from day one. And it's really helped us scale. So.
Where were you 20 years ago when I needed you?
She's sitting right next to you, and she wants to talk after this.
I already told him.
Well, I want to know from your perspective, what rings true in what you just heard, and what might be missing that we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the things that Fanta just touched on actually really resonate. And just to add a point of differentiating point that just to add yes and, I think one of the things that you really have to realize is that every business is in business to do a thing. Capital One is in financial services. We do checking, we do savings. You may or may not have heard about it. We also do credit cards, right? That's the thing that we focus on, and we're really good at that thing. Everything else we think of as commodity. So if you have some capability, some offering that is it comes in as a value add to us and will also show up as commodity to us. We're willing to buy commodity, and we're going to build strategically differentiating things. So if you were to come to us and say, hey, I am going to sell you some piece of tech that is strategically differentiating for you, there are one of two things that may become true. Number one, are you also going to go down down the street to the next bank and sell it to them? That's the first concern. The second concern, which is actually a good thing for you as an entrepreneur, is you really have something that really stands out and really is of value to us, we'll buy you, right? And maybe as an entrepreneur, that's great. Maybe that's an entrepreneur that's horrible, right? Because the thing you want to do, you want to make available to everyone. So think about the company, what they're doing, what is strategically differentiating to them and what's commodity to them, and think about where you fit in that spectrum. And that will allow you to prioritize which companies to go after, maybe even which industries to go after, right? So first, second, and third.
On that note, I think that was actually incredibly helpful for our fellows. I imagine there will be a line of people circling you following this. Thank you for doing this panel with us. Thank you for coming and joining us and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Fun.
Appreciate it.
On to the fellows.
Thank you all so much, Awa and Fata. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your perspective with us. I think that discussion really gave some useful frames as we hear the stories behind each of these ventures and the incredible humans that created them. Before we dive into the pitches, I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge the hard work and resilience of our founders that you're about to hear from. Starting a venture is never easy, especially when you're working to solve a complicated or a complex social problem or many within the same business. And today is a moment to honor their dedication, creativity, and drive. Since Halcyon's founding 10 years ago, we've remained committed to supporting impact-driven founders from across the world. When visa issues or travel complications prevented a selected fellow from participating, we always try to find other Halcyon programs for which they may be eligible or ways to bring them into the program and the community. One of our EquityTech fellows, Christiana Okiri of my stash, was unable to secure a visa and join the cohort in person. However, despite the time difference, Christiana participated virtually from her home in Nigeria in almost every session throughout the last 2 months. And despite being virtual and remote, I think was able to really connect with the fellows in a similar way to what they all did living here in this house together. We admire Tiana's persistence and her commitment to the other fellows, and we're incredibly grateful to have her as a Halcyon alum. Without further ado, I'd like to present to you the 2024 Halcyon EquityTech Fellows and Christiana Okiri of my stash.
Hello everyone, my name is Christiana Okiri and my company is called My Stash. My Stash, our mission is to empower both formal and informal economic workers across Africa to build a savings and investment culture. I was inspired to build My Stash after I saw parents who are informal workers struggling to feed their families because they had no savings. And this got worse during COVID-19 because people could not work and then they had no savings to fall back on. Now, personally, I understand these struggles because my mother is also an informal worker. So I understand firsthand the struggles that come with not having a financial safety net to fall back on. And these informal workers are not enrolled in Nigeria's pension scheme, even though they make up a whopping 76% of the nation's workforce. Now, on the other hand, we have formal economic workers who are enrolled in the nation's pension scheme, but the value of their savings and their pensions keep going down due to the Naira's devaluation. Now, to put this in perspective, this year alone, the Naira has lost value by over 40%. Now, what that means is that if someone saved 100,000 Naira in January of this year, the current value and purchasing power of that money is now about 40,000 Naira. On the contrary, if that same 100,000 Naira had been saved in USD, it would have grown by 20%. So its current purchasing power would be 120,000 Naira. So I hope this gives you some sense of the problem, and you can now see why all workers are seeking better ways to build and maintain the value of their wealth in the long term. So in 2021, we built My Stash. With the My Stash app, informal economic workers can set a percentage of whatever they earn to be saved. More importantly, the savings are kept in USD to hedge against inflation, and they also earn interest. Also, formal economic workers can set a percentage of their salary to be automatically saved in USD and earn interest. Our customers are also able to make cross-border payments on My Stash. So for example, a business owner who has been saving on My Stash can decide to break his savings and send the USD funds to his supplier abroad using our payment service. And of course, we, My Stash, make money from that transaction. And this is one thing that differentiates us from other companies who are also offering USD savings in Nigeria. So far, over 20,000 people have used our app. And this year alone, we've done over 120,000 USD in savings and over 5 million USD in cross-border payments. Also, we've noticed that our customers are able to save 20% more money than they ordinarily would have because of our app. We make money in two ways: by taking a share of the interest earned on customer savings and also from foreign exchange margins. We have a solid team that includes the founders, staff members, the board, and advisors. And combined, we have over 30 years experience in finance, technology, and operations. Right now, we are focused on growing our numbers and improving our user experience. In 2025, we also want to begin issuing virtual debit cards to our customers. So we're currently discussing this with a few potential partners. Come 2025 also, we plan to raise 500K. and we use the funds to upgrade our license and grow our revenue by at least 30% in 2025. Now, the reason for this 30% threshold is because we grew our revenue from last year to this year by 15%. So we believe that we can at least double that figure by the end of next year. So join us as we continue to empower all workers across Africa to build a savings and investment culture. Thank you. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Gonzalo. Fun fact about Gonzalo, Gonzalo has won more awards in the past 8 weeks than I have in my lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, Gonzalo.
That was definitely too nice from Diana. But hey, I'm Gonzalo. I'm the co-founder of Escuela. And Escuela in one line is a mobile learning system for frontline workers. The big problem we're trying to solve in Escuela is the lack of skills in frontline workers. In fact, we know from the IDB that 55% of frontline workers worldwide aren't correctly qualified for the jobs they have, which is evidently a huge risk in terms of productivity, but an even greater risk in terms of well-being of this frontline worker, who many times operates heavy machinery. It could basically take their lives. Just to put it into context, in the world we have 2.7 billion frontline workers, almost a third of the human population. And the lack of skills in these 2.7 billion workers is generating an $8.5 trillion global labor deficit. So it's a huge problem. It affects absolutely every company in the planet. The good news is we as companies can participate in trying to solve this. Right? So we built Escuela for them, which in one line is this mobile learning system specifically designed for people with low learning habits and poor internet connectivity. We have built our solution upon two main pillars. In terms of technology, we have developed this mobile-first, low-tech, low-bandwidth solution, a platform so light in terms of data that it takes less space in a smartphone than a high-resolution picture, and users can even use it without internet connection. And all of this because we have followed this sort of reverse engineering process where we have designed and developed from the tool that is already in the user's hand, which is a mid-range or low-range smartphone, nothing too sophisticated. And in terms of pedagogy, we have designed this learn dynamic based on active learning. Our users interact with different AI-generated questions. They learn throughout interaction, receiving constant feedback, and generate lots of data that allows to follow up on the learning journey at real time. We offer all of this in a B2B subscription model where we have different price ranges according to the number of users one company wants to enroll. But as you can see, we are super affordable in all of our ranges, but at the same time, allowing us to have really strong unit economics and gross margins of over 80%. The market opportunity is huge and growing real fast. We have a $240 billion corporate training market worldwide. And the interesting thing is that out of these $240 billion, just $18 billion are allocated into frontline workers. So this shows this really clear symmetry in the market that luckily is being corrected real fast. We have seen some amazing initial traction working with big companies in Peru, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, Guatemala, and the US, having trained more than 40,000 frontline workers, working with some of the biggest companies in those countries, and also generating more than $400,000 in revenue year to date, and allowing us to reach profitability in the last 2 quarters of this year. We're super excited about that. Also, our users completely love us. We have a 95% satisfaction rate across all of our different courses, and 85% completion rate in all of our different projects, which basically the completion rate is probably one of the most challenging metrics for edtech companies. So that's great. And behind all of these different numbers, beautiful numbers, what these numbers hide is that we have a lot of different tens of thousands of really high impact stories to tell about impacting construction workers, mining operators, artisanal fishermen, and so on. Our team has the perfect combination of passion and experience. We have a lot of experience in the edtech space, in B2B sales, in full stack development, and also have been able to capture the interest and enthusiasm of really big organizations such as the ADB, MIT, evidently Halcyon. And yeah, with that, I invite you all to join us in our quest to design the future by developing the right skills the future needs. Thanks. And with that, I would like to introduce to the stage yet to be discovered professional bowler, the amazing Adi Bono from Pelican, my dear friend.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. My name's Ali Bono, and I'm the founder and CEO of Pelican. And we are a platform that empowers families to save for education. Each year, over 25 million Americans seek a path toward post-secondary education, but have absolutely no idea how they're going to finance it. Yes, of course we all know the rising cost of education, but beyond that, when families begin their savings journey, they're confronted with a variety of different options that oftentimes are overwhelming and intimidating for families to understand even where to begin. And for many first-time savers, like new parents saving for their child or college students, they don't know where to start. And many of these families lack foundational skills when it comes to saving and investing. So when they're thinking about things like where to invest, tax deductions, and impact on financial aid, they get lost in the process. And this leads to over 90% of those seeking a path toward higher education without any money saved. But this is extremely important because even nominal amounts, like just $500 saved, have significant implications on that student's educational engagement across their learning journey to enrollment and even completion. And that's why we're building Pelican, to guide families through this process when it comes to saving for education. And let me show you how it works. We first work with families to create a plan, whether it's who they're saving for, their education level, and then we match them with the plan that best fits their needs. From there, we provide automations and insights with the amount to save every month and tax deductions that individual might be available to them, and even provide funding opportunities like scholarships, grants, and other programs that might be available based upon their profile. We're even providing a community where friends and families can come together to support one another's success. So for birthdays, holidays, back to school, you can contribute to your loved one's education fund and even get a tax deduction in many states. And we're finding that this feature alone provides 12 additional supporters of that student's journey, who not only contributes toward that savings goal, but also believes in that student's success. And 3 of those are likely to become new Pelican customers. So to date, we've helped close to 5,000 families save upward of $90,000 toward educational outcomes. Many of these are first-time savers, like new parents and students in the middle income who are coming through referrals from friends. And beyond that, we're having significant impact in how many people are feeling about their finances, feeling more in control and like they have a plan to be able to achieve their goals. Now, the education savings market is already quite large, but as I mentioned, a number of families are not currently investing. So we believe that there's an opportunity to not only tap into this market, but get more families invested and ultimately families saving more money. Our business model is designed with this in mind, and we charge a percentage of assets under management and have subscription fees if families are looking for an added boost. And our team is unwavering in our commitment to the financial success of families. I started my career here in DC at the U.S. Department of Treasury, where I worked to rebuild and strengthen the economy following the financial crisis. I further went on to work at InstMed, who revolutionized the health tech industry by providing real-time payment transactions in the majority of hospitals and doctor's office here in the United States. Our team comes from organizations like the National Center for Education and the Economy, and even the Harry Potter game. In the next 18 months, our aim is to serve close to 25,000 families and get each of those families have the $500 minimum account threshold. We're looking for opportunities with businesses, governments, and nonprofits to even find ways to maximize their contributions through matching contributions. And with that, I'm excited to connect with you all later tonight about our journey and our mission to empower the next generation of young leaders. Thank you. And with that, I'm excited to introduce Daryl Holman of Revival, a fellow New Yorker. During our time at Halcyon, he has not only we've bonded together about our missing bagels. He has had time to run the New York City Marathon and has been an incredible fellow in the household. Yeah.
Okay. Hey everybody, I'm Daryl, founder of Revival. My story starts with me leaving grad school with close to $100,000 in student debt, and that actually pushed me to get active. I ended up designing the websites for 2 of the leading organizations in the fight to cancel student debt and serving as a U.S. Senate panelist on the issue. And so one of the 2, like they don't let you touch like any design or any code until you actually understand how debt moves around financial markets. And so I had like, I guess like this, I'm like combing through the Google Doc and I have like this like light bulb moment. It's like, why can't I just like go to the aftermarket and like buy my student loans? Turns out it doesn't work, but it works for just about everything else. The odd thing is like the average American spends almost their entire adult life trying to pay off debt, while at the same time, institutional investors are buying our debt at discounted amounts. And we have like no idea what happens like after we're approved. And so like, I guess I'm gonna do my best, like I guess like in 10 seconds to explain it to you. Think about like Jeff Bezos' credit card. Institutional investors want safety and low risk. And so like we assume that bill is getting paid all the time. But if you're someone who's like low wealth, low income, low credit, investors aren't so excited. And lenders have to price those accordingly. And so although you might be on time with every single one of your bills, your loan can be trading for like up to like 50% below the value. Nowhere is this more prevalent than the subprime auto market. Vox is like calling it an outright scam. And NPR is like showing that people are like signing up for a loan and paying more than 3 times what they expected to for their auto loan. And so it's like, all right, big tech, do something about it. And so what you'll see in the innovation market, most of it is targeting loans that are like past due. And so like if you're someone who's like paying on time, but you're not feeling like it's getting you anywhere, you're just like kind of like left hanging. So we built Revival. At the end of the day, a loan is just somebody else's asset. So why can't consumers come together and be their own form of a buyer and like buy the loans at that discounted amount, just get rid of the loan? And so it actually isn't that complicated. We're like connecting through API data to price your loan and using that information to get that offer in front of your lender. So the thing is like the loans of people who are like low income, low wealth, those always like are attracting the most like aggressive investors. So they're not hard to beat on price. So we figured it out and put it in front of your lender. Here's how it's worked so far. We started with a small pilot. And so in 3 to 6 months, we're able to like basically create $1,500 worth of value for people where it otherwise just wouldn't have existed alongside a credit score boost. And that's on top of the $2.1 million in debt that we've eliminated leveraging grants. And so I'll start with my advisors. We have more than 40 years experience in both debt brokering and debt rehabilitation. But I think what's most exciting is my CTO. So he's a Columbia grad, and he's worked at unicorns like LaunchDarkly. But we connected on the first call because he was like, yo, I've been trying to buy my own debt on the aftermarket too. And so, and so like naturally, I guess like we hit the ground running. And so we've also been able to like cultivate some like really cool backers that we're like really excited to work with. So like the Tides Foundation, the Robin Hood Foundation, Andreessen Horowitz's Talent and Opportunity Fund, alongside angels like Halcyon, who just like actually want to see things work better for people. And so we're raising $250,000. And so like this will help us both double our dollar value impact on consumers as well as keeping like that credit score increase. But if you put your investor hat on, it'll bring us to $150K in revenue and unlock a larger credit facility so we can scale the business without too much dilution. That's Revival. Thank you, everybody. And so while most of the fellows will know Patricia as most likely to be cooking something up during Founder Friday nights, she's also quite skilled on the basketball court, so welcome her to the stage.
Thank you, Dario, for that. Yep. So, when I say a child is blind, What do you imagine? It's dark, confusing. But what is even more confusing is when a child can see everything but cannot recognize anything. The world looks like just a blob of colors. This is the day-to-day of 36 million children with a condition called cerebral visual impairment, or in short, CVI. Their brain cannot process what the eyes are seeing due to the neurological damage. However, the good news is it is treatable. With vision therapy given at an early age, the vision can be improved up to 90%. However, it is becoming a challenge. There's a global shortage of special educators, and each child requires different adaptations, and the therapists spend most of the day customizing for the therapy. And when it comes to the parents in developing countries, they spend most of their income and professional time in just attending the therapies. Ultimately, we leave 80% of the children without any intervention. That's why we developed Vision Nanny. Vision Nanny is a digital platform which provides personalized therapy to children anytime, anywhere, both at clinics and even at home. Our platform features a library of research-backed activities which can be highly customized with just a click of button. We also provide tools to the therapists, empowering them to customize and create their own materials. And our AI activities make the whole therapy multisensory and fun. In fact, our pilot studies have shown that children have a longer engagement time and faster response with Vision Nanny compared to the conventional therapy. Vision Nanny is indeed transforming the whole CVI ecosystem. Therapists can save up to 3 hours daily on personalization. The parents can cut down costs by 50%, and the child can get 3 times more of the therapy time compared to the conventional sessions. We operate in 2 different subscription plans, one for the therapist, where we give a different advanced access to the features, and one for the parents, where we give access to unlimited activities at just $10 per month. We stand out from our competitors being a comprehensive solution and so simple at the same time that even a community health care worker or a grandparent can provide therapy to the children easily. We started our journey as volunteers for children with CVI. We are a diverse team having an optometrist and a researcher on board, and in fact, our co-founder, Aishwarya, is visually impaired herself. Thanks to our clinical mentors and the amazing partnerships we had, within a year of launch, Vision Nanny is able to onboard 500 therapists in India and reach over 3,000 children across the world, and all with just zero marketing budget. Well, this is just the start. There is a growing global healthcare crisis with CVI, and the global market is estimated to be $2.6 billion. And we want to position ourselves as a one-stop solution to capture it. For this, we are seeking a funding of $250,000, which would aid us to take this huge leap in developing more B2B features, validating them, and even establishing our sales channels across South Asian countries. With this, we aim to see the returns of 20x in the next 4 years and aim to impact 1 million children by 2030. Every child with CVI deserves to see the beauty of this world. Join us on how we can do this together. Now, next I welcome the active listener of a cohort who I'm pretty sure can surpass your therapist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
ahead. So imagine there's a significant event that happened that you were completely unaware of. So most people assume that everyone else can hear. However, sounds like fire alarms and sirens and other sound cues make it really challenging to get the attention of people with hearing loss. And this is something that I can relate to because I'm hard of hearing, and I wear hearing aids sometimes at nighttime. But one day there was a late night fire alarm in the condo building that I was living in. And as people were evacuating the building, the superintendent was in the parking lot taking attendance. And unfortunately, I was not there because I was still in bed sleeping, completely unaware of what was going on until a couple of days later. So we have laws that were designed to provide accommodation to try to fix some of this issue, but it hasn't been consistent depending on the building you're in, the province or state that you live in, or the country that you're visiting. And so often, many people with hearing loss need to purchase an alerting device. Alerting devices are typically stationary. You can't exactly carry them with you as you enter each room, and they don't work outside of the home, for instance, receiving an alert to sirens while driving. There are about 61 million people worldwide with a hearing loss that make it significantly challenging to hear public announcements, emergency sound, or any kind of sound that warrants our immediate attention. 54% of this market is seniors in the US, which is one of the fastest growing segments in our world. So what if we can use artificial intelligence and combine that with mainstream technology to really help deaf and hard of hearing people know exactly what's calling for their immediate attention? Well, Listening is just doing that. Listening is an app that uses a microphone from smart devices to listen for selected sounds. And instead of having to hear, our custom AI algorithm detects these specific sounds and then issues out a haptic, visual display, or a flashing light notification to the user using an array of devices from smartphones, smartwatch, smart lights, or any other smart tech. So Listening has been able to attract the customers at every step in their hearing loss journey, from contact marketing to distribution partners with Hearing Loss Association, and most recently, integration partners with manufacturers who build smart technology for the deaf and hard of hearing. So we operate on a subscription plan where we provide weekly access, say for a week-long vacation, or annual access if you know you need all year-round support. So Listening is definitely not the only player in town. Where we differentiate is that we're brand agnostic, but we also focus on the individual with the hearing loss. We understand their needs really deeply, and we're dedicated to providing that satisfying experience. And so we also target a broad use case tailored to the specific environments as well, more than what our competitors are doing. So I come from a background in computer science and have been able to take this idea to the App Store. I've been featured in the media numerous times, and we had a number of supporters who've been with us every step of the way. So we had collaboration from academic institutions, from fire alarm manufacturers. We have many people downloading our app and paying for subscription. And our next step is really to look at continuing with our AI research and development, but also looking at paid pilot with the strategic partnerships who share our vision to automate listening in using smart tech. But my goal for Listening is to be a technology that we can all use, similarly to an audiobook or a speech-to-text application, which initial use cases involve people with disabilities and now have become mainstream. But first we must help the deaf and hard of hearing stay safe and sound. So thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please lend me your ears for Tiana, who is a powerhouse from Botswana. But I also say he is a great observer of all the things in Washington at TJ Maxx. So thank you.
What a quiet introduction. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tenega Gatsiga. I'm the co-founder of Devtronics. At Devtronics, we manufacture affordable solar-powered hearing aids made by people who are hearing impaired, for people with a hearing loss. A few years ago, I met a boy called John. John brought a newspaper to me. He wanted to know the contents of the newspaper. He wanted to know the contents of the newspaper. For me, I wondered why a 12-year-old boy could not read. And I realized that John was provided a hearing aid through a non-government organization, but he was only using that hearing aid for 1 month. due to the problem that the batteries are not available and the batteries are expensive. Out of curiosity, I visited John's School and realized John's School were also recipients of hearing aids through non-government organizations. But they also had used those hearing aids for a month. Again, the batteries are not available and the batteries are expensive. Given a chance, people would rather buy bread than buy hearing aid batteries. So as a result, children were cut off from school activities. However, we believe in solutions. We developed a solar-powered hearing aid. This is a solar-powered hearing aid. It charges 3 batteries at once, and 1 battery lasts for 1 week, and the lifespan is 3 years. So that means for a period of 3 years, you're not going to buy any hearing aid batteries. And we've managed to reduce the cost to, that is 10%. The current price of a hearing aid starts at $1,000, excluding operational batteries, and ours is $100, and it comes with a solar charger, 4 rechargeable batteries, and a hearing aid. Our products enable a child to develop speech and listening skills, therefore presenting them with an opportunity to attend school. We believe that only through education, that's when we can break the cycle of poverty. Our footprint across the globe, we've managed to distribute our products in Brazil, Vietnam, and the rest of Africa. We're ahead of our competition. As you can see, we are affordable, we are accessible, and we are solar powered. For the past years, our partners have managed to provide us with funds for pilot projects and distribution. Our team is comprised of engineers, audiologists, and technicians. One of our co-founders, Sarah Piri, she's hearing impaired. We've managed to distribute 10,000 units in sub-Saharan Africa, and also we've managed to have a revenue of 100,000. We would like to increase access to hearing aids for school-going children by 20% in 3 years. We also like to distribute 40,000 units in Kenya. We're also looking to partner with organizations which work with hearing impairment. In order for us to achieve these milestones, we're looking for 150,000. You see, we do not only provide affordable solar-powered hearing aids, but we also create employment for the hearing impaired people, thereby removing stigmatization towards the hearing impaired society. My fellow visionaries, let's look at a bigger picture here. You see, the market is so huge and the impact is so profound. So at this moment, I invite you to walk with us in this journey where we make Africa here again. Thank you. Well, I think allow me to introduce my friend, Kavi. Kavi, she's so smart that every time she walks into a room, everybody's IQ goes up by 50%. Thank you.
I feel like now you expect me to give you like a mind-blowing presentation that demonstrates my IQ that's exceptionally high. That was a very inaccurate but glowing introduction. Thank you, Tana. Hello, everyone. My name is Kavi, and I'm the CEO and head of product here at Tiddy. Before I tell you a little bit about the work that we do, I want you to meet one of my students from my time as a teacher back in Sri Lanka, where I'm from. This is Akash. Akash was 4 years old when COVID hit, which meant that 2 of the most foundational years of his life was spent in complete isolation. Something interesting happened when he turned 7 and restarted school and met people outside his mom and dad for the first time. He was extremely silent in the classroom, but at home he was throwing these very unusual tantrums. The issue was that his parents and teachers from a very rural community in Sri Lanka lacked the right tools that they needed to figure out how to intervene. Let's take a look at what the data shows around children like Akash who experience an adverse childhood experience and don't get the right kind of intervention. They are 90% less likely to graduate from high school. They are 3 to 4 times more likely to be clinically depressed and to experience a future of financial insecurity. You might think that this is an isolated story, but this is actually the story of 1 in every 3 children that come from countries like mine. But there is good news. If you look at the world of neuroscience, they show us that 80% of our brain development was done and dusted by the time we celebrated our 10th birthday. I'm sorry to be sharing bad news with you. But if you have 10-year-olds or primary school students that you know, or you're a parent yourself, that means that we have this incredible opportunity to completely change child's life trajectory by intervening early and in the right way. If you look at research, our culture's life story could have been completely transformed by simple interventions around a skill called self-regulation. And this is what we do at Tilly. By bringing together decades of research at the Stanford School of Education and the networks of UNICEF, what we do is we use play, behavioral sciences, and learning data to build the 8 most essential cognitive skills in children before they celebrate their 10th birthday. How do we do this? With years of experience and user testing, we've built a beautifully designed play toolkit that spans 36 weeks and brings together a comprehensive curriculum for educators to execute in the classroom. We don't stop there. We don't know if learning is happening if we don't measure learning. And some of these skills like self-awareness and metacognition and empathy are extremely difficult to measure. What we do is, after a child completes their learning in the classroom, we send an assessment into their parents' WhatsApp. And then we share this learning data in readable ways that make sense to teachers like myself so that we can change classroom interaction every single day. Since launching, we've reached 16,000 learners, 4,500 teachers across 21 elementary schools, and we launched our school product just in January this year. We're trusted by organizations like the Gates Foundation that's funded some of this foundational research. Our design and learning innovations have been recognized by organizations like IDEO, who are the golden standard in our industry. But what excites us the most is our learning data. We record a 95% completion rate, and as Gonzalo mentioned, this is a very hard metric in EdTech to see if kids are completing what we're giving them. We also see that 95% of classrooms who use Tilly record a reduction in behavioral complaints in just 12 weeks. So, how does the business side of this work? In just 11 months of launching, we've been able to have 21 paid schools that amount to contract value that exceeds $800,000 USD per year. We also sell to nonprofits. Selling to schools is really, really hard. The way we've cracked this is by targeting what we call network schools. Just last week, we onboarded 17 schools through the network called Hippocampus. And we also target nonprofits and governments, and we have incredible organizations like UNICEF, UNRWA, organizations like Save the Children who purchase subscriptions from us. Our team brings together experiences in the behavioral sciences space, machine learning, and expertise in scaling EdTech ventures. We are on a mission to ensure that every single child is developmentally on track by the time they turn 10. What we ask from you is introductions to primary schools who are interested in piloting Tilly, and impact investors who might be in the room who bring specific expertise in the Middle East and in South Asia. We're on a mission to ensure that 10 million 10-year-olds have access to Tilly by 2030, and we can't do this alone. So find me at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. I have nobody to introduce, but thank you for listening to all of us. And over to Emily.
We forgot to talk that I was closing out. Thank you so much for coming today. Let's give it once more for our fellows. It means a great deal to us and to them that you took time out of your day, both to be here and online, to listen to their vision of the world. And vision is really what Halcyon, our incubator, is all about. Holding a vision for the future of other people on behalf of them until they can hold it for themselves. So we're privileged to share and support the vision of our founders. So I'd like you to take a moment and raise your hand if you were a mentor, if you were a leadership coach, if you were a skill series speaker. We'd like to recognize you and say thank you, because Halcyon wouldn't exist. Our programs would not and could not exist without your gifts of time and expertise. I also want to give a big thank you to Capital One, AWS, Arnold Porter, and Deloitte, who are our partners. I also would like to thank Dan Barker, Marcelo, and Adam for their leadership in making sure that we continue to be able to do what we do best. I also want to give a very special thank you to Gretchen and David for working behind the scenes to making sure our event goes so smoothly. Now finally, let's have a big round of applause one more time for our fellows so we can enjoy some good food and drink. And we'll start our networking time. Thank you.
You got my